how do you find catch lights? I gave you a clue before. You have to look for a contrast in your lighting situation. So you need to put your subject in a darker area. The darker, the better. Allow the subject to look towards a brighter light source. So find a darker area where you can put your subject and make sure that she can see, or your subject can see, some sort of bright light source, okay? Now, how can you do that? One, many people use this as a window. And a lot of times you'll find that when you're indoors. Just look for any window and you can create a catch light from that window, because it's always brighter outside than indoors if the sun is out. Two, open door. Any kind of doorway or when the door is open can create an amazing catch light. And also, that is something that you can find indoors. So when I'm indoors and I'm looking to create a great portrait, let's say I'm shooting a wedding and their bride is getting ready or something like that. One, I look for a window or I look for a door where that light is coming in and I know I can get a great shot. Now, outdoors, what do I look for? Quite simple, shade. Look for shade. Shade is created in many different ways. I'm going to go over that, but anywhere you see shade should make you happy, because through shade is where you can make your subject, put your subject in a darker area and create a catch light. Let me show you how to create a great catch light with a window. Let's take a look at this next photo. This was taken in Paris, and I had this huge mansion that we rented out, and I have these beautiful windows to my right. And I'm using that light to come in to light my subjects. Look at the shadow and the highlight that that window creates. And that's the kind of lighting that you want to be able to create. A directional light creates a highlight and a shadow. And that gives dimension to your subject and also makes the skin just look lovely when you have that highlight and shadow. You can see the catch lights in their eyes from that window. I'm going to use that same window and take another portrait, and this is just with a single portrait, but you can clearly see the catch light. It's over to the left, so you know that that window is to her right or camera left. When you're using a window, make sure that the nose is towards your light source. Because if you have a light source here, right, and the nose is not towards the light source, my face is a lot darker. And so now you have a lot of post-processing to do to make that face become a lot brighter. But if you always keep the nose towards the direction of that light, you're going to ensure that the face is the brightest part of your picture. And that's going to create impact because you're going to immediately see the subject. So when you're using your light source and finding your window, make sure that that nose is pointing towards that light source. So that's what I had her do here. And you can see the beautiful highlight and shadow on her face. I want you to examine the transition between the highlight on her face and the shadow on her cheek. Is it soft or is it a sharp transition? Well, what we want to use most of the time when we're taking portraits is we want a very soft transition between highlight and shadow. How is that created? That is created by a very, very, very large light source. So the larger the light source that you use is the softer the transition between the shadows. And that's what really creates great portraiture, is those soft shadows. I'm going to show you another example here of these three lovely, the bride and bridesmaids. I want you to notice the soft transition between the highlight and shadow on their arms. Is it sharp or is it soft? It's very, very subtle. What does that mean? That means that they are lit by a very large light source, which was a window. And so windows or doors or wherever can be quite large. And for you to actually create that type of light source, you would need a huge light source to get that same effect. That's why when you use natural light, you are using very large light sources so you can produce high quality light if you can find it. Use a large light source and get your subjects as close as possible to that light source. And that's how you're going to create smooth transitions between highlight and shadow on your subjects. And that is professional quality lighting. I'm here in Mexico and we're trying to find a place to shoot. And we go into a Starbucks shop and it's kind of next to or in the same area of this kind of cool furniture place. And so we just asked, hey, do you mind if we start shooting some photos here? And we had a great time doing a portrait session with all this antique furniture. And what did I do? I found a large window. I put my subject towards that window. The nose is towards the, you got it, light, right? And so you can see that smooth transition between the highlight on her face and the shadow. It's very subtle, making for a beautiful shot. Now I'm going to Pasadena and we have a beautiful bank of windows where I'm taking my subject and I'm putting her nose towards that light. Examine the transition between the highlight on her face and the shadow. It is very smooth and beautiful. Why? Look at the size of those windows. I mean, those windows must have been at least 6 feet long by 6 feet high, creating a beautiful, big light source to give me that soft, diffused light that looks absolutely beautiful. Let's take a look at this next photo of this beautiful bride and groom that I shot in Mexico. It had all the elements of a great photo in this location. One, I look for repetitive highlight and shadow, and those columns that you see were lit by windows. And I go, you know what? This is going to be a perfect place to take that photo. So I set up the bride. Her nose is towards the light. And I turned her body away from the light because her dress is a lot brighter than the color of her skin. So if I faced her dress towards the light also, if I exposed for her face, then her dress would be overexposed. So I want to preserve those details in her dress. So I turn it away from the light so it will be darker, but her face will be the brightest point of that image. So I set her up beautiful. You can see the catch lights in her eyes there. And then I take the handsome groom and I kind of complement him with her. And you can still see his face there because I've got big, soft light. And that light is transitional between the shadows and the highlights, making for an awesome shot.